Hi everyone. So this week we are going to take some of the things that we have learned from the past few weeks and we're going to start combining them together to get a little bit more of a finished drawing. Now we're not quite ready to do our full portraits, but we are ready to start taking some steps. So if you recall, a couple weeks ago, we started setting up a framework for the head where we had something that was like this. And we started to figure out how to maybe set up our basic shape of the head. And then last week, we took a look at facial proportions and we got something that was kind of like this, right? Where we started to set up what the face should look like with all of its parts, okay? So today what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a look at some actual photographs and we're gonna start putting this stuff together and we're gonna start doing some loose sketches, some loose drawings, and we're gonna start to see how this stuff all works as a unit here. So for my first picture here, I have Squints from The Sandlot. And so this is a pretty straightforward picture. It's not totally face forward. He's kind of looking a little bit to the side, but it's pretty simple for the most part. So all we're gonna do for this is we're gonna just start off the same way we did with our other pictures. We're gonna get his head shape down first. So I'm gonna start off, same thing, get that circle, which is kind of around here. And then I'm gonna add his chin in. And if you want, you can use like our little circles on the side. I'm gonna do something like this. So what I did is I started off, again, just with a circle, which is pretty much the top half of his head. And I'm just going in and I'm adding his chin in underneath that. And then maybe this even needs to come out more. And then I'm gonna do the same thing I did before. I'm gonna get this center line. So this center line isn't directly down the middle. It's over to the side a little bit. And we have his nose that comes right across here, right pretty much where the bottom of the circle is. We have his eyes, which are gonna be right about here, and his mouth, which is gonna be right about here. So maybe this is a little tricky because he has some glasses in the way, but all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start just sketching in roughly where I think his eye should be. So I'm gonna have something like this. I'm gonna have a nose that's somewhere around here. And again, I'm just sort of using these same techniques that we've been studying over the past couple of weeks. And I'm gonna just sort of rough out his mouth shape here. And you know, maybe it's not perfect. Maybe I'm gonna need to go back in and adjust things, especially if I were doing like a finished drawing here. But this is just sort of a sketch and we're just sort of figuring out the basics where everything's supposed to be and how it all works. So this is really the purpose of today's exercises, is that we're just getting used to how all of these parts sort of fit together, right? And we're just sort of figuring out, okay, well, we learned all these individual parts, so how do I put them all together into an actual working drawing? So, you know, maybe things aren't totally exact, but I'm getting a feel for how this all works together. Yes? So now maybe let's take a look at another drawing or another photograph. So here's Arya from Game of Thrones. So Arya here she's almost looking in the same direction. She's almost doing the same thing. Her head isn't straightforward, it's kind of tilted a little bit. But the interesting thing that we see here is we see a completely different head shape than what we had for Squints. So even though she's kind of looking in the same direction with Squints, we had a very oval head. Well, with Arya, we have a very round head. So the setup's gonna be a little bit different. So what we're doing here now is we're starting with this circle So we have this top part, but instead of bringing a big long chin off of it, maybe her chin is just a little bit more subtle. It's a little flatter down at the bottom. And so even though we're doing the same thing, we're just altering how we're doing it. Again, she's looking a little bit off to the side. She has eyes, maybe somewhat up here, a nose somewhere around here, and a mouth that's down around here. And then I can start, again, you know, doing all of these same things that we spent the last couple of weeks doing. We want to make sure that we're not forgetting those things. We're not making football eyes. We're not drawing these really funny noses, but we're using all this stuff that we've been doing our artist studies on. Maybe I get something that's kind of like this. Get some lips drawn in. Now, you know, these don't have to be pretty drawings. They can be messy drawings. Again, these are still studies. We're still learning. They can be a bit sketchy, and that's okay. The point here is that we are just learning to utilize all of these things that we've been studying for all these weeks. And then, so maybe I get something like this for Aria. So we can look at Glen here from The Walking Dead. Same thing. Now he's looking a little bit in the other direction. Again, like Aria, he has a little bit of a rounder head. So I would approach this the same way. I would start off with a circle. Maybe make it a little bigger. So we have a circle somewhere around here. And then his chin doesn't come off there much. So it's something like this. I got an eye line. I got where the bottom of his nose is and where his lips are. And I'm gonna do the exact same thing I've been doing. I'm gonna put his eyes in. Again, paying attention to shapes, distance apart. Get his nose drawn in there using those same techniques that we've been working on. Maybe I want to take note of like where his nostrils are in relationship to his eyes. Get his lips in. And I'm using all of these guidelines and everything in here to kind of figure out exactly where everything's supposed to be, just like we've been doing. Just now I'm putting it all together. And I get something maybe that looks like this, right? You know, and lastly here we can look at Galadriel from Lord of the Rings. So this one's a little bit different. She has a little bit more of a turned head. So far we've been looking at people that are kind of facing forward. She has a much more dramatic turn to her head. So in this case, this changes what I'm doing, but only slightly, because I'm starting off the same way. I'm starting off with this circle. So I got something like this. But I now have, and if it helps, you can put this circle here where her ear is. And now we're just gonna build up of that to get her chin. But same thing, I'm gonna put this eye line in, I'm gonna put this nose line in, the lip line, and then I can just start doing these same things that I've been doing. I can get her eyes sketched in We only see a wee little bit of this eye over here. And then actually maybe this one comes back. Maybe her nose comes out a little bit more. And I have her lips here. And I'm just taking note of all these things that we've been studying the past few weeks. Think back to all of those drawings you did. Make sure you're utilizing all of that stuff, as I said. And it's okay if things aren't perfect. It's okay if you make something too big or something too small. We can always go back and fix it. Drawing faces is hard. It's not easy. So then maybe I have something like this, you know, her little elf ear there. Maybe you see some eyeball action, maybe not. Maybe I have to fix some curves on her nose, and that's okay. Maybe I have to do some of this stuff. But that is how we use this stuff that we have been talking about in order to get a more finished drawing. So these are by no means complete. They're still sketches, but what they do is that they capture the essence of the face. So we see a bit of that expression. We see where the eyes are looking. We see what the mouth is doing. And we get it set up in a way that's pretty proportionate, that's pretty accurate. So this was sort of taking everything that we've been talking about, taking this basic setup for the head, taking these proportions, taking all of those weeks where we spent drawing the eyes and noses and mouths. And what we're doing is we're combining those all now to create, you know, a pretty accurate rendering of the face. So that was the purpose of this week's video, to show you just how to put all of that stuff together to get a basic drawing and to start really looking at faces and to learn how to really set them up and use everything that we've learned up to this point. So I hope that this was a little bit helpful. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you guys next time.